Hello and welcome to episode 252 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and kudos to the Bengals, right, Jay?
I mean, we've had the decades of being alive, and the Bengals have been a joke pretty much the entire time, except for two Carson Palmer years. So, on some level, I'm kind of happy for him.
I had too. I had a hard time. I was kind of rooting for them yesterday, just because I really like Joe Burrow, and I've said to me, he's a cross between Joe Namath and Jim McMahon. And Jason thinks he's got a little bit of Tom Brady in him too, or maybe more Tom Brady than the other two I talked about. But I like his style.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely confident. He's definitely a little arrogant. He's definitely a leader. He can make the big throw. He doesn't get lost in the moment. But he's a number one pick. He was a number one pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And he's legit.
And he had a couple of those scrambles where he did the Houdini, where
Yeah.
it looked like they should have
Well,
got
that
him.
one where they were wrapping around his foot and he pulled his foot out just the time they were going to close on him. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I know he didn't know that because he was supposed to looking backwards, but it was still impressive.
Yeah. And, I mean, we talked about this, maybe 100 episodes ago, but having been a Steeler fan that has, personally got to see two Steeler Super Bowls in person in my life, I'm okay. I still obviously I get really bummed out when the Steelers lose and I want them to win it all, but I don't mind sharing that feeling with it. Like I said, it's nice seeing the band. It was hard not to root for him because, like you said, Burrow's great. Chase is really fun. Higgins, if you can
Tyler
look,
Boyd, Joe Mixon. I mean, it's a good team. It's
yeah.
a solid team. So, do you maintain the Bengals won or the Chiefs lost?
I always want to give credit to the team that won, just because it feels like that's the right thing to do, and they made the plays. But I mean, we talked about it a little bit before we got on the air, and you have no timeouts left. I think 6 seconds on the clock, and you threw a screen pass instead of kicking a field goal to go up by 14 points. And it was a dumb play. And then in the second half, a combination, I think, of coaching where we talked again, McKinnon and Edwards-Helaire were both running the ball really well. And in a game where you have the lead, like I know analytics, they keep throwing, but they were dropping 11, 3 in the box sometimes. Like, run the football.
Yeah.
And then I heard this comparison on one of the talking head shows or maybe on Twitter, I can't remember where, but they were saying maybe Mahomes isn't Tom Brady, maybe he's the next Aaron Rodgers. And that, he's going to look like the greatest thing ever and then just have a couple I don't want to say choke, but he played terrible in the second half.
He didn't. They as a team did not adjust well.
No, and that pass in overtime was, I mean, he threw in between two guys. The guy made an incredible play, like you said. Like the ricochet to be able to catch that
Yep.
was amazing, but that was a bad throw.
It's not like Tyreek Hill was open.
No.
He was covered.
Well covered. Do you give credit to the Bengals or the Chiefs? Right there.
It's hard for me to say because when I watched that first half, that game could have been over.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. So that's a mistake by the Chiefs.
It was 21-3 at one point.
But on the other hand, it does take a lot to keep your head in the game, especially a game of that magnitude on the road with 70,000 fans chopping and cheering against you. And so, you got to give them props for not letting the moment be too big for them and not getting lost and coming back and making adjustments and playing. I mean, I have a lot of respect for the coach.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, we saw these adjustments now, and those were good adjustments. Those were smart plays. And you look at when you look at the coaching staff up in the booth and the guys on the sidelines, he's only 36.
Yeah.
It's a pretty young staff.
Very young staff.
And they seem to have it figured out. So I was impressed.
And again, going back to that field goal, I mean, the non-field goal at the end of the half, like, you're up 21-3. You put up 21 straight points. You're rolling. You have some really sloppy tackling on that Perrine screen touchdown. The Bengals get within 11, and you have a chance with under 2 minutes left to put points on the board. And I know a touchdown, obviously, I understand math. 7 is more than 3. But I think 3, because now it's not just we just scored and we shut them down at the end of the half. psychologically, you got some points, and they gave up points at the end of the half. They still drove right
Yeah.
down your throat. And
And then Andy Reid said, in a press conference, he said, he probably sent in the wrong play.
uh-huh.
And I mean, you can see it either way, right?
Right.
I mean, it's Tyreek Hill. If he's one-on-one, and we saw him one-on-one a lot of times, and he makes two jukes and he's walking past you and you're out of bounds or you're sitting on your butt, maybe you expected too much. Maybe you just thought you could do whatever you wanted to do. I don't know.
Yeah. Like you said, it seemed like there was time to maybe try a quick throw to Kelsey in the end zone. If you get it, great. If not, bring out the field goal unit. But
yeah,
but no
that's, I
timeouts.
think what everybody pretty much felt that you take a quick pass if it's there. It's not. If not, throw it to the goalposts and bring the kicker in.
Yeah. And again, it seems like these last two seasons, some of the knocks that Andy Reid had prior to winning the Super Bowl with Mahomes 3 years ago, all those issues seem to be right back at it. Some of the clock management, play calling, failure to adjust, like all the things that, I know Bill Simmons famously had his playoff manifesto, which is never bet on a team coached by Andy Reid. And he sort of silenced those critics, but then they're sort of back.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the other game.
Yeah, let's do.
I did not expect the 49ers to win, but they were winning 17-7. A 10-point lead.
Yeah. In the second half, late in the third quarter.
The Rams weren't showing me anything. The Rams were not running the ball well, and surprisingly, neither were the 49ers.
No.
Like the 49ers only had 50 yards of rushing in that game.
They did.
And I mean, that's for that team, that's unbelievable. You would have thought they'd have 150 if they had anything. And so, they end up, obviously the game plan was to make Jimmy G beat you. That was the game plan.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously on the other end, it was to make Stafford beat you. But, for some reason, Cooper Kupp is always open. And I have no idea how. I have no idea why. I don't know if they scheme him open. I don't know if he's just shifty. I don't know what it is.
He's incredible.
But why Cooper Kupp is always that open, I have no idea.
And this is sort of an odd comparison, but when I was thinking about Cooper Kupp the last 3 seasons and before his first couple years, he's got the Steph Curry thing happening, where he was regarded pretty well coming out of the draft, smaller guy, and then for his first couple seasons in the league, he could not stay healthy. I remember from fantasy purposes, where he'd go out, he'd have a really nice couple of weeks, he'd get banged up. He'd have a couple of nice weeks, get banged up, and miss a lot of time. And then these last 3 seasons, he's put together just an incredible stretch, including this year where they haven't announced the MVP yet, right?
No.
I mean, he should be a top 3 guy. In a
I
weird...
don't even know. Where was he drafted? What round?
I think he was a second-round pick.
Out of Eastern Washington.
Out of Eastern Washington. But, I mean, I remember he was a name, as a... I guess slightly above casual. I mean, I don't know, what would you call me? A casual draft watcher? I mean, I pay attention to the draft. But,
I wouldn't call you casual. I wouldn't say you're an expert, but I'd say you're pretty damn good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cooper Kupp was a name that I feel like even if you were a casual draft viewer, you're checking a few mock drafts, he was a name you would have heard of. I would say that.
Okay.
But like I said, like Steph Curry, he came from a smaller school, and he just had injuries his first couple years. But he's open every single play.
Every single play.
And shout out to Stafford, who people were like, was it Detroit or was it him that sucked? And apparently it was Detroit.
I watched Dan Orlovsky today on Get Up, and he's been in Stafford's camp the entire year.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been pro Stafford the entire year, saying that in this big moment, Stafford was going to have a great game. He was going to make big plays. And so he took a victory lap around the studio, and it was pretty funny. But it was well deserved. I mean, he was out there. He was out there high on him when nobody else was. I think he's been high on Stafford his entire career. Yeah, but I mean, all the other guys in the studio would be bad-mouthing him, and, he didn't succumb to the pressure. He backed his guy the whole time. And again, last week when they almost fell apart, Stafford was the one guy not falling apart. Yeah.
And again, shout out to Odell, who sent the escape Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. It's been on fire. Had a really nice game.
Really nice game.
And a really nice
And
moment
it's
with.
fit in well, and had become a valuable part of that team. Understanding that the guy we just talked about is the number one option.
Yeah.
And it's probably the first time. Well, in Cleveland, I guess you could argue Odell wasn't the number one option, even though when they traded for him, you thought he was going to be.
Yeah. And then he had a nice moment with Debo Samuel, who he went over and comforted after the game.
Yeah.
I mean, for someone, in that position.
A classy gesture, a very deep moment. And I love me some Debo Samuel, though. He is a weapon.
And he was a second-round pick, surprisingly. Back to draft. But now you can kind of see why the 49ers drafted Trey Lance. They're this talented of a team, but as an organization, they did not believe Jimmy G was the guy that could get them over the top. And I know he was a dropped interception away from being the guy that got them to the Super Bowl again. But he is going to make those throws.
Even if he makes an interception, there's plenty of time left.
It's true. And Jimmy G is going to make, he's going to give the other team opportunities to get the ball. He just is. He seems like a cool dude. But,
Okay, so who are we picking next week?
Well, next week is the Pro Bowl. I'm going to pick the AFC.
Sorry. Forget about the Pro Bowl. I didn't want to talk about the Pro Bowl. So who we picking in the Super Bowl?
I know this is going to sound crazy because this is his second year in the league, but as you pointed out, he is 25. I think Burrow might be my new Brady, is the guy I just don't want to bet against. I like the way the second half adjustments I've seen the Bengals make all year have been incredibly impressive from a coaching standpoint. Between Higgins and Mixon and Burrow and that tight end that I always forget the name of, and Chase, they're just a really good team. And I think they can I don't think the Rams can run the ball, so I think they can play a lot of that drop 7, drop 8 at times and, stymie the Rams. So I'm going the Bengals.
Okay.
Which sounds insane, but...
I think go the Rams because I think with Dan Orlovsky, I'm just saying it's Stafford's time.
Yeah. I think it hasn't been Burrow's time, but he sort of told the league, F you, it's my time, I'm taking it anyway. And smoking cigars and wearing gold chains.
So let's play a quarterback game, Jason.
Okay.
So we're going to assume that Tom Brady is going to retire.
I think that's a safe assumption. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
So where does Aaron Rodgers go? Does he stay in Green Bay? Does he retire, or does he go somewhere else? And if you think he goes somewhere else, where does he go?
I think he stays in Green Bay.
Okay.
I think when you look around the league, you don't want to go anywhere near the AFC if you're a quarterback.
Yeah.
He's in the worst division in football on a team that's won 13 games the past 3 seasons. They have the money to bring back Devontae Adams, and assuming they can do that, I think the franchise knows and he knows this is the best way for them all. I'm just not sure if they're like, fuck this guy, get him out of here. Because I feel like he's reached that point where I don't think the fans would be mad if you got rid of him.
Yeah, I think after not making it this year, I think you're right.
I think he said so many negative things and seems so I know he's never said he hates cheese curds or anything crazy like that, but I think he's worn out his welcome from a PR standpoint, where if you're the organization, you could get away with it. Now, granted, if Jordan Love had played a little better in these past 2 seasons, you'd really get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I think the smart money if he left would be somewhere like Denver. Given his offensive coordinator, his quarterback's coach, they've got a nice young nucleus. Granted, you're playing in the same division with Mahomes and Herbert. So that part, but that probably doesn't. I'm sure that doesn't scare Rodgers. But I think he stays. You think he goes?
I don't think he retires. His offensive coordinator and quarterback coach both went to Denver. I don't think he goes to Denver.
Okay.
I think he either stays in Green Bay or goes to Tampa.
I see. Tampa, huh?
All right. Jimmy G.
That's a good question.
He goes. Where would you put him?
I, I mean, I think a lot of it. I think his value is coming. You know, what happens to Derek Carr? What happens to Kirk Cousins? Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston. Like you have all these guys that are basically the same quarterback on some level. You know, they're all sort of like 3.5 star restaurants. Just which one are you going to? Because you're not gonna be satisfied or win it all with any of those guys. So I think it's just gonna be a carousel of where one of those guys ends up. Like I could see, even though he's not the best sort of fit, like he's obviously proved he's a good mentor. Apparently, the second they drafted Trey Lance, he gave him a call and he's like, "Can't wait to get you here. Can't wait to work with you." So he's a very team oriented guy. So I could see whoever drafts, Corral or Willis or one of these young guys coming in that might need a year. I kind of see him ending up in one of those places.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he ends up in Denver.
Okay. I feel like if I'm
going to be outrageous today. I'm just going to say he's going to go to Denver.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, he's a weird one because it's like, and then it sounds like Russell Wilson isn't going anywhere.
Sounds like Russell Wilson isn't going anywhere. No.
I mean, he'd have to really stink, make a big stink about it to get him to get traded, but I don't think they want to. And I don't know. He and his wife can probably afford a private jet. She can get her thing in Vegas and hang out there. So.
And I think Washington is going to spend big money and try and get somebody.
I mean, they seem like. I mean, granted, I hyped them up a little bit too much in the preseason. They were one of my way off ones, but they do seem close. With Gibson and McLaurin, a decent offensive line. But I think we've said this before too, but I feel like a great quarterback might be the most rare job in all of the world.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's great brain surgeons and astronauts. There aren't any good politicians, but what are you going to do? I mean, that's just nature of human nature. But as far as like, jobs that are very difficult, like I feel like quarterback must be the most difficult position ever. Because at any given time, you really only have like 7 or 8 people in the entire world that are that good at it. Not good enough to be in the NFL, but to really be a great,
Yep.
Well,
I can see Jimmy G ended up in San Francisco too.
Yeah, I mean, I think after this, obviously it would have been difficult if they went to the Super Bowl and lost, or even if, obviously if they won, it would have been very difficult to get rid of him, but if they went to the Super Bowl and lost, it would have been a little more awkward. But I think his sort of foibles down at the end of that game, like, if you look for a weakness on the team, it's the quarterback. And they gave up, essentially, 3 picks, including 2 future firsts for Trey Lance. So I think we're going to get a lot of Trey Lance next year. And I don't see Jimmy G wanting to be a backup. What if...
It's going to be a fun year, though.
What if the Tampa Bay Bucks end up with Jimmy G?
Could happen.
Brady's old heir apparent. I think Tampa's going to be... I don't think they're where the Steelers or the Saints are. But I think with a lot of the older guys on defense, their cap is sort of coming home to roost slowly. And with, Godwin, a free agent, Antonio Brown, a crazy person, I don't think they're as attractive a destination as they were at one point. At least going into next season.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I just don't think, I was thinking about the Saints as a spot for Jimmy G. But Saints don't have any money.
No, they have negative money. Like negative 70 million monies. Well, I guess while we're on the topic of the NFL, first, special shout out to Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris, who are going to be in the Pro Bowl. I know it's not super exciting, but they're in the Pro Bowl. We have Steelers there.
Agree.
2 offensive Steelers. But Tom Brady looks like it's over. And like I said, I think, you can have in certain sports, like in basketball, I think you can have a Jordan, LeBron, Bill Russell. You can have that debate. But I don't think in the NFL you can have a debate anymore as to who the greatest NFL player of all time is.
I don't think you can either.
Certainly not quarterback. I think it's Brady by... Yeah. I mean, he went to 10 Super Bowls. He won 7.
And
And
he went to 14 AFC championships in one time.
yeah, I mean, the numbers are staggering, and people want to point out. I mean, and then he won without Belichick in his first year away from Belichick, as if that was even on because people always look for a reason to tear down whoever's on top. But I just, he terrified, he tortured the Steelers for 2 decades. Just really owned our team, which was very sad and frustrating. Especially having, gone to college in New England around Patriot fans during most of those times. Just, an absolute incredible player. Teammates seemed to love him.
Yeah.
And then we talked a little bit off air, but, it seems like the money issue was sort of debunked as to why he pulled back his retirement talk right away. The one I heard from, I think it was also on Twitter, is that he's still bitter towards Adam Schefter because of the whole Deflategate thing. And that he actually they leaked it on purpose to Schefter and then said, no, that's never been reported. This guy's an idiot, just to make him look bad.
In which we both agreed that could happen.
That seems like something Brady would do. And then I also think the guy said he was going to play till he was 45. And, he just may not have been ready to say yes yet to the retirement. But the one thing I do appreciate he did, regardless of whether this was by his intentions or not, but he didn't leak it till a few days after Ben Roethlisberger officially retired. And he sent out a nice tweet about Ben Roethlisberger as well. So it seemed like he let him get, a couple days of being the SportsCenter topic of conversation before he became the only conversation. So there's something to be said for that. And then I think statistically he's got like every stat, doesn't he? Touchdowns, yards, completions, wins, winning percentage. Just, it's absolutely absurd.
Yeah, he's done everything and then some.
And obviously he didn't get to go out Jerome Bettis style with a Super Bowl win, but they had that big comeback at the end. They didn't go out like dogs. Like they almost came back and beat the Rams, and then obviously Goff came back with 13, with the entire field and however many seconds it was.
Mm-hmm.
But Brady got to go out, on a good game, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, we talked quite a bit of NFL talk.
Well, I get a couple little news items for you.
Okay.
Grambling State is set to announce a name, image, likeness deal for all of its scholarship athletes.
Oh.
Where every Grambling athlete receives annual income for their NIL. The deal is believed to be the first of its kind. So every athlete, every sport, male and female, that's newsworthy.
That's incredible.
So that'd be something we probably need to follow.
Oh, yeah.
Then the other thing I found interesting is now, Zuckerberg with his move with Meta in the metaverse, right?
Yeah.
So we're all set today that we can go online and any of our accounts, our Facebook account or our Meta account, I guess now, right? That's supposed to call it.
I think we're supposed to.
Our Facebook account.
That sounds right, yeah.
Our Facebook, Instagram, and Messenger, we get our avatar and put a Super Bowl jersey on our avatar.
Okay.
We can outfit our digital avatars with shirts representing the AFC champion Bengals and the AFC championship Rams. And the shirts and you can also just put them in a Super Bowl logo shirt if you and your avatar want to really display your fandom. My avatar and I are not going to do this, but I just thought I would point it out there that it's out there.
It's certainly out there. Yeah. It's quite weird.
Let's talk about NBA. Let's talk about you and I both picked the Lakers to win.
We did.
And now, in reality, the Lakers might not even be in the discussion.
No.
So, what do we think? What do we think is the future of the Lakers this year?
I think it's rough because, as people have pointed out, unless there's some sort of shady a guy gets cut, he signs with the Lakers for no money, is like a buyout guy. It's just some sort of something set up with Clutch. There's no help coming, you know. Like, I
Yeah.
don't even know what you could get for Horton Tucker in your 2027 first round pick. Like I said, I would take it. Like if I was Detroit and Jeremy Grant seemed they thought he was going to be a hot item. Apparently, he's not that hot of an item right now. But a 3-and-D big wing that can play some defense. I would probably gamble and say I'll take the Lakers 2027 pick and hope that they suck then. But LeBron's got the knee issue right now. AD's in and out of the lineup. And people have pointed out too, he gained like 30 pounds in the offseason to try and bulk up and be more of a traditional five, but that's not been good for him. And then, I think we were one of the last podcasts in the world that was just, on Russ Island, and he's not helping his case at all.
Well, I'm going to ask you a couple NBA questions now, and let's just see how much fun we have with this, see where we go with this.
Okay.
How far do the Cavaliers get in the playoffs? Do they win one series? Do they win two series? Do they win three series? Where do they go? Or do they get eliminated first? When do they lose? Do they lose the first round? Or do they win?
Honestly, they're sneakily becoming my Bengals of the NBA.
Okay.
Where, I just think when you break down the East, if Philly doesn't make a move, they're obviously a very good team, but Cleveland's a terrible matchup for them. I'm still confused by the Miami Heat. Like, I know there's Heat culture, and they're getting their guys back, and they're a very good team. The Bucks seem like they've got a little bit of that, between injuries and guys in and out of the lineup and being the year after the championship thing. Like, I'm not saying I think Giannis is always hungry, but I'm not sure everybody else on that team is still hungry for right away. So I could see them winning it all, or not winning it all. I could see them winning it all. I actually could. As crazy as that sounds. Mobley's amazing. Jared Allen's great. Darius Garland's fantastic. They need one more piece. Like when they had Dragic, was it Dragic they had? No, they had Rubio. But maybe if they get Dragic at the buyout to take Rubio's spot. Like that's a tough team. What's your thought on
Rubio
them?
and Sexton, they're down to playoff Rondo.
Yeah, which is not good.
No.
How far can you see him going?
I think they'll win their first round. I don't think they'll win their second round. But I think they're a team to worry about.
Mobley and Garland have really just those are two. That's a young combo that's absolutely incredible. Mobley is amazing. He does stuff defensively. He's like a young KG.
Same question. Memphis.
Again, I absolutely love Memphis, and the Lakers, our pick, clearly not going to be there. The Clippers, obviously not going to be there, a team that was there last year. Portland's in the dumpster. Denver, as much as you love what Jokic is doing, he's absolutely fantastic. Like, without Murray, without Porter. Utah's on I think they've won 2 games since the beginning of the new year. I don't think Dallas has the horses. It's basically just them and Phoenix, right?
And Golden State.
And Golden State. How could I forget Golden State? But if you told me they were going to end up in the finals, I'd completely believe them because that team is so much fun and they gelled. They play so well together.
Okay, I'm picking Memphis to win 2 series.
Okay.
And lose in the conference finals.
Yeah. If it was Memphis Cleveland, I know the NBA probably doesn't like that from a marketing standpoint, but
from a fan standpoint, it'd be pretty good, wouldn't it?
It really would be. Because you got Ja, Garland, Mobley, Triple J. That's exciting.
Final question. Do you think we see a Phoenix-Milwaukee rematch or will it be somebody else?
As I said earlier, Giannis is my favorite. Maybe he's top 3 in all sports combined. Like, I love that dude. He's so much fun. But there's something off about Milwaukee this year. And I don't know if it's just Lopez and other injuries, but I don't think they're coming out of the East. And you know what's weird? Before you answer this question, we didn't even talk about Brooklyn.
No.
Considering it was going to be the Lakers versus Brooklyn was pretty much the, chiseled in stone everything the NBA could dream of, and that's what everybody was picking. But we don't think either of those teams are going to be in the finals.
Well, the interesting thing is, if you're Brooklyn right now, you don't want to finish 1 through 4.
No, I don't think you do.
You want to be the road team because Kyrie can play.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting.
Oh, there's something there for sure. He is pretty amazing when he's on the court, though.
But think about this. If it was Brooklyn and Golden State, he couldn't play at all.
Now, I've only listened to this peripherally, but can Brooklyn pay a fine and let him play? Is that really a thing?
No.
Okay, because I was like, that sounds like you have to tell me you're a cop, kind of cop. Because I mean, I know even like ESPN had been talking about how Brooklyn could just pay a fine, but the owners didn't want to pay the fine. And I'm like, I don't think that's true. Like,
No.
that doesn't sound like a real thing.
Brooklyn, Golden State, you would be playing without Kyrie in both markets.
Yeah.
Something to hang your hat on. One last sports comment before we move on. I'm getting less and less optimistic we're going to have spring training.
It certainly doesn't seem like it's a, yeah.
Or if we have spring training, we're not going to start baseball when we're supposed to start baseball, which might not be a bad thing if it starts later in April, as long as you're not trying to make up all the games. If you start later in April and the weather's better, to me, that's not a bad thing. So we'll see where it goes.
While we're on,
what do you got?
well, while we're on baseball, do we need to talk Hall of Fame at all? I mean, I guess congrats.
Yeah, we should talk about Hall of Fame.
Congrats, Big Poppy, obviously.
Congrats, Big Poppy. And, you know, you can gnash and cry about Clemens and Bonds, but when it gets down to the next group of when they're next eligible with, when they're not on the public ballot, when it's a committee vote, they'll both be in.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know about Schilling, though, because he's been kind of whacked.
he's been real wacky.
But Clemens and Bonds will get in.
But obviously,
the funny line was, and I think it was Colbert or if it was one of the Jimmys, said that, you know, and the good thing about it is he won't get a big head over this.
that is a good line. I mean, you know, obviously the plaque on the Hall of Fame talks about how it's a museum and a representation of baseball throughout history. So having, you know, guys like Rose and, you know, Shoeless Joe go on all the way back. But in a sport a Hall of Fame that is filled with people that played before segregation, they're in the Hall of Fame. Outright racist, wife beaters, you know, other drug users. Like, it's pretty hypocritical, you know?
Yeah.
And again, obviously with Clemens and Bonds, you look at their stats, assuming, and again, we really have no idea who all was using and who wasn't using.
No, I mean, Big Poppy was implicated for a while, too.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't, you know, it's hard to really, I don't know. It just seems like a mess. And I mean, it feels like it's another, you know, it seems like it's just weird righteousness debate, you know, between going too far with the numbers. And I feel like the NBA saw what happened with baseball with all the analytic talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like they've done their best to at least curb it on some level. Like, I don't think they want analytics to take over the conversation of basketball like it did baseball.
Right.
Because I think that's bad for the sport. And I think baseball, like, you look at the analytic conversation, which I think, you know, pushed away a lot of casuals. You know, the game length. I think you look at the Hall of Fame talk, you know, all the negativity around that every single year. Because, again, not bringing those guys in just brings it up you know, this black eye every single time, one way or the other. And then you have yet another strike. I mean, they're just, I know the money's still there and they're probably obviously still making billions, but it just isn't a good look.
No, I agree. Yeah, we'll see where it goes, but I know they'll both get in next time around.
Yeah.
Because it'll be away from the voters. All right, entertainment. What do you got?
I'm finally watching The Witcher, which is based on a video game starring Henry Cavill on Netflix.
Okay.
You know, it's a fantasy show, and it's got the really nice budget, really well done. There's 2 seasons out right now, and I'm just really into it.
Okay. I watched the first episode of the most recent season of Ozark, and 3 minutes into it, I am totally hooked again. So they do a really nice job with the recap from where it left off last year. And it's just, you know, one of the best Best shows on Netflix that there is.
Oh,
I enjoy it.
and I know you and Mom already spoke about this, but I got my, it's SAG season, so I'm getting on my award shows to watch.
Uh-huh.
I did watch the second season of Ted Lasso, and it got me again. It did,
No, I love it.
It's it's beautiful. It's heartwarming. It's funny.
Did you watch the Christmas episode?
I did, and it's weird though watching it. In the context of people feeling like it went too far. Like for me, I was like, well, this didn't go far at all. Like
I said on this show, I said it's the best Christmas episode of a televised episode, streaming or network or cable, that I've ever seen. I mean, it's just powerful. It's funny, it's moving. I mean, I laughed and I cried
yeah,
when I watched that episode.
no,
And I think
there's
that's, if you could say that, it's like Jim Valvano said, if you laugh, you cry, you've had a hell of a day.
yeah,
And
and I
that
guess
episode just did it for me. But I love it. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'm ready to go watch it again. It's that good.
yeah, I was like I said, I think Reservation Dogs is the only other show in the past season that had all the emotional highs of laughter and crying that I've gotten since this one. And
Yeah, it's Dudley.
and again, I was a little skeptical, like because like I said, for the first season for me, like again, I've never encountered a show that was able to toe the line between funny and over the top corny, where it almost becomes like too much.
Yeah.
And I thought it really benefited from coming out in year 1.5 or however many year was of the pandemic when everyone was stuck at home and really depressed. And not that we're out of the pandemic because we're seemingly back at a different one, but it's great and it deserves all the hype it's getting. And you definitely should. I don't. It's hard to imagine people not like someone really not liking the show.
No question. I had a food moment.
Okay.
I happened to have been in Orlando Friday.
Ooh.
And so I wanted a slice of pizza, so I went to Valdiano's and had the Grandma's Sicilian.
It's a good pizza.
And it was as good as ever.
Yeah.
So if you're in Orlando and you have a chance to go to Valdiano's, there's one in, I think, Waterford Lakes, and there's one in Winter Park Village. You can't go wrong with a slice of Grandma's Sicilian.
I guess I technically had a food moment. We got Taco Bell.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. And what I've discovered about Taco Bell is that, when you're a little kid, right?
Yeah.
You eat Domino's, you eat Pizza Hut, and you think it's amazing. But as your taste buds grow, you taste far better pizza. And you still love pizza, so you'll still eat it, but you'd be disappointed if you went to somebody's house like, hey, we're getting pizza and you got Domino's, right?
Right.
And then with burgers, you start out with your Burger King, McDonald's, Wendy's trio. But then you graduate to a Shake Shack, a Five Guys, let alone like real restaurant burgers.
Right.
And even though there are obviously, Felipe's, Chipotle, you guys have Tijuana Flats down there of like ups, like, that next level up of sort of fast casual Mexican food.
Mm-hmm.
Taco Bell's in its own unique category where it hasn't been replaced because what it does isn't really Mexican.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So that there's not a step up from Taco Bell. Like Taco Bell's its own planet. And if you enjoy it, you're going to enjoy it forever, I think, is what I would say. I know it's trash and it probably cost me a day of my life from eating it, but I did enjoy it, yes.
Okay. What did you have?
I always just get tacos and chips and cheese.
And what did Maria get?
She got 5-layer burrito. And we also got, what are they? They have Cinnabon Cinnabites.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's like a little dough ball with the icing inside and the cinnamon sugar on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And as the name implies, they are delightful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought we'd be talking Taco Bell on our food moment.
And you know what I'll give you? I'll give you a game for people to play at home too. Because we discovered this game. Obviously, in the pandemic, you spend a lot of time at home. Now, we just do it with sips of wine because otherwise we'd be dead if you did it with shots. But if you watch a show like Criminal Minds and you drink every time they say unsub, victim, Garcia, baby girl, you'll drink about 35 sips of wine.
You know what? You have to be right.
Yeah.
You have to be right on that.
Oh, we did it on paper. We kept track. Yeah, we both almost drank an entire bottle of wine each during one episode.
Unsub,
Yeah.
victim,
Profile.
baby girl.
Yeah, you throw in
That's
profile.
too funny.
Yeah. It's
No,
a
buddy, that's a great game for you.
yeah, because that show really repeats the words.
Yes, they do.
They said victim 16 times in the episode we watched.
Wow,
Yeah.
too funny.
But again,
But
if you
it's
did it
gonna
with
be
real
fun
shots,
for
I
the
think.
NFL this week, unless you want to watch the Pro Bowl,
No.
which is, in my opinion, the worst All-Star game ever. It needs to be totally reinvented, reformulated, repackaged.
I think the crazy thing about the Pro Bowl is people gamble on the Pro Bowl. I think that's the sign that you have
no
a.
idea.
That's when you have a real gambling problem.
You know, people will start gambling on the transfer portal now.
Yeah, but at least I mean, there's probably some. I mean, I don't know how you. I just still don't know how you would gamble on the Pro Bowl. Like
I don't know either.
people aren't.
First team to score.
Yeah.
You know, different things like that.
But people aren't trying to play. It's just a mess. Yeah. But we'll probably be back with more NBA talk next week.
Everybody have a great week. Don't forget to watch Criminal Minds and play the game.
Yeah.
Get yourself some good wine.
It's on Netflix, so yeah. There you go.
All right, take care.